You versus you, the only battle that matters. The quiet before the storm. No one saw him. He walked through the crowd like a ghost skin warm, soul cold, dreams buried under layers of quiet disappointment. On paper, he was fine. A job, a routine, a life. But inside, he was rotting. He had grown used to losing small pieces of himself every day to fear, to doubt, to comfort. It wasn't the world that was beating him. It was him, the inner voice, the one that whispered, "You'll fail again. You're not good enough. Why try?" He'd listen, obey, smile in public and bleed in private. Every missed opportunity, every silent compromise, every time he said maybe next time, it added weight to a chain he'd worn so long it felt invisible. But something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning bolt. No applause. Just a moment. He stood in front of the mirror, eyes dead, face familiar, and said aloud for the first time, "You are the enemy, and I'm done losing to you." The storm hadn't begun yet, but the air smelled of fire, and for the first time in years, the ghost inside him twitched, awake. He didn't know what was coming. He just knew he had to fight. Not to win, not to impress, but to become. Wake the beast, the alarm rang. He didn't hit snooze, not this time. His body protested. His bones felt heavy, like they carried centuries of defeat. But defeat wasn't welcome anymore. He had buried enough versions of himself in yesterday. Today was war. He stood up. The floor was cold, the air was sharp, but something in him was burning. It wasn't motivation that comes and goes. It was rage, not at the world, not at people. At the silence, the wasted years, the voice inside that kept him caged. He looked in the mirror again, not searching for beauty, not checking for scars. He stared at the reflection like it was a rival. "You don't own me anymore." That voice inside the lazy one, the one that whispered excuses, that fed him comfort, it laughed. It was still there, grinning like a shadow in the corner of his soul. "You'll come crawling back," it said. "You always do. You can't survive the fire." And maybe it was right. But he was done talking. Now, he was moving. Push-ups on the cold floor. Jogging through the rain. Reading books instead of scrolling dead screens. Silence over noise. Focus over fantasy. Every moment he moved forward, the old voice screamed louder. But it didn't matter. Because deep inside, the beast was waking. This wasn't the version of him that begged for validation. This wasn't the version that waited for motivation. This was the raw, untamed, unfiltered part of him that refused to die quietly. He didn't want a perfect life anymore. He wanted a real one. Full of scars, full of storms, full of strength earned through suffering. So he whispered just 3 words, barely loud enough to hear, but heavy enough to change the air around him. Let it begin. The breaking point. He thought it would get easier. He thought that once he made the decision, once he woke the beast, once he took the first few steps, the world would move with him. It didn't. The world doesn't care about your dreams. It tests them. The grind hit him like a storm. Early mornings turned to long days. Muscles tore. Sleep ran thin. People laughed. "Who does he think he is?" He smiled at first. He said it didn't matter. He pushed through. But pain is patient. And doubt is a master of disguise. Every failure hit harder. Every win felt smaller. He questioned everything. Why am I doing this? What if this is all for nothing? The mirror he once stared into with fire now showed a tired face. Eyes bloodshot, hope cracked. Then it happened. The moment. The breaking point. He snapped at someone he loved. He dropped to the floor, exhausted. Tears quiet. Bitter fell on the same cold ground where he began. He was angry. Not at the world. Not at the pain. At himself. He thought strength meant never breaking. But now he realized. Strength is what you do after you've broken. And just when he thought he was completely alone, a stranger, passing by, noticed him. No words, just a hand on the shoulder. Just presence, just kindness. No motivation speech, no miracle. Just proof someone saw him, and it was enough. He didn't rise with power. He rose with truth. This was never about being perfect. This was never about being unbreakable. This was about choosing to rise, even shattered. Because broken bones heal stronger, and broken men build legends. The breaking point. He thought it would get easier. He thought that once he made the decision, once he woke the beast, once he took the first few steps, the world would move with him. It didn't. The world doesn't care about your dreams. It tests them. The grind hit him like a storm. Early mornings turned to long days. Muscles tore. Sleep ran thin. People laughed. Who does he think he is? He smiled at first. He said it didn't matter. He pushed through. But pain is patient, and doubt is a master of disguise. Every failure hit harder. Every win felt smaller. He questioned everything. Why am I doing this? What if this is all for nothing? The mirror he once stared into with fire now showed a tired face, eyes bloodshot, hope cracked. Then it happened. The moment. The breaking point. He snapped at someone he loved. He dropped to the floor, exhausted. Tears quiet. Bitter fell on the same cold ground where he began. He was angry. Not at the world. Not at the pain. At himself. He thought strength meant never breaking. But now he realized. Strength is what you do after you've broken. And just when he thought he was completely alone, a stranger, passing by, noticed him. No words. Just a hand on the shoulder. Just presence. Just kindness. No motivation speech. No miracle. Just proof someone saw him. And it was enough. He didn't rise with power. He rose with truth. This was never about being perfect. This was never about being unbreakable. This was about choosing to rise, even shattered. Because broken bones heal stronger. And broken men build legends. The shadow within. After the breaking point, he thought the hardest part was over. But the battle had only changed its shape. Inside, a new war raged quieter, more ruthless. The shadow within. It was the part of him that questioned every choice, that whispered doubt like a poison in his veins. It was the voice that said, "You're not enough. You'll never be enough. Give up. It's safer." He wanted to silence it, to crush it beneath the weight of action and will. But shadows don't disappear by force. They hide. They wait. They grow. Some days it felt like he was running in circles, chasing a version of himself that slipped just out of reach. Progress felt like a lie. Hope a distant memory. He stared at his reflection, searching for the spark that once burned bright. But all he saw was exhaustion, confusion, fear. And yet, in that silence, he found something unexpected. A strange kind of peace, because the shadow was a part of him too. Not an enemy, not a curse, but a reminder. That growth isn't linear. That strength isn't the absence of struggle. That to fight the battle within, sometimes you have to stop fighting. He learned to sit with the shadow, to listen without judgment, to understand without fear. And slowly the shadow stopped feeling so dark. It became a guide, showing him where he needed to heal, where he needed to forgive, where he needed to fight harder. The war inside was far from over, but for the first time he didn't feel alone. Because he realized the fiercest battle wasn't to defeat the shadow. It was to accept it, to embrace the whole of himself, broken and bruised, tired and true. And from that acceptance, he found the strength to stand. Not because the storm had passed, but because he had learned how to dance in the rain. Fire forged. The storm outside was relentless, but inside he was becoming something new. Every hardship, every failure, every shattered dream was no longer a chain. It was fuel. Fire. He had learned that pain was inevitable, but suffering was optional. He could let the flames consume him, or he could let them forge him into steel. It wasn't an easy choice. The fire burned hot. It scorched his pride, his patience, his excuses. But it also melted the doubts, the fears, the lies he'd told himself for years. With every step forward, he felt himself getting stronger. Not because the fire made him invincible, but because it made him real. Raw, unfiltered, unbreakable in his authenticity. He stopped pretending to be perfect, stopped chasing approval, stopped fearing failure. Instead, he learned to own his story, to wear his scars like armor, to speak his truth even when his voice shook. And in that fire, he found clarity. The battle was never about winning against others. It was about winning over himself, to rise every time he fell, to stand tall even when the world tried to knock him down, to fight the voice inside that said, "You can't." Because deep down, he knew the only way out was through. And through the smoke and ash, a new man was rising, stronger, wiser, ready. The weight of choice. Strength wasn't just about muscle or endurance. It was about choice. Every morning he woke with two options: to surrender to the old voice, the easy path, the comfort of silence, or to stand up and fight again. The weight of that choice pressed on him, heavy and constant. Some days it felt like carrying the world on his shoulders. But he understood something vital. Choice was freedom. Freedom to break the cycle. Freedom to rewrite his story. Freedom to decide who he wanted to be. The battle inside was a series of moments. Small decisions stacked like bricks, building the foundation of a new life. When the shadow whispered, "Rest," he chose discipline. When doubt screamed, "You can't," he chose faith. When pain threatened to break him, he chose persistence. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy, but it was real. With every choice, he chipped away at the man he used to be and revealed the man he was becoming. A man who understood that freedom wasn't given. It was earned, one hard decision at a time. And in the weight of choice, he found his power. The silent war. The fiercest battles aren't fought with fists or words. They're fought in silence. Inside him, the war continued quiet but relentless. The fear that clung to his bones. The old stories that tried to trap him. The endless noise of doubt and what-ifs. No one saw this war. No one heard the cries of his soul. But it was real. And it was exhausting. He realized the real enemy wasn't outside. It was the fear of being seen, truly seen. The fear that if he dropped his armor, the world would reject him. So he kept fighting silently. Mask on, smile fixed. But inside, the battle raged. One night, alone in the dark, he faced the truth. To win this war, he had to be brave enough to be vulnerable. Not weakness, but courage. Courage to admit he was afraid. Courage to ask for help. Courage to break the silence. It wasn't easy. But the moment he spoke his truth aloud, the chains began to loosen. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't winning the fight. It's choosing to stop fighting alone. Rise through the fall. The fall was inevitable. No matter how strong he became, how much fire he carried, he would fall. And it would hurt. But now he understood something crucial. Falling wasn't failure. It was part of the journey. The ground wasn't the enemy. It was the teacher. Every time he hit the floor, he learned how to get back up. Not faster, not easier, but stronger. Because true strength isn't in never falling. It's in rising every time you do. He stopped fearing the fall. He welcomed it, knowing that with every crash, he shed old fears, old doubts, old limits. And with every rise, he grew. A little braver. A little wiser. A little more himself. The journey wasn't about perfection. It was about progress. And no matter how many times he fell, he would keep rising. Because the only battle that mattered was the one inside. And he was far from finished. The edge of madness. The pressure built like a storm inside him. Unseen. Unrelenting. Every fight, every fall, every victory, they piled up in his mind until the line between strength and strain blurred. He felt himself teetering on the edge of doubt, the edge of fear, the edge of madness. Sometimes the battle inside felt like losing his mind, a chaos of voices screaming. Why keep fighting? Is it worth it? Who are you really fighting for? And in that chaos, he almost gave up. But deep inside, beneath the noise, a quiet truth whispered, this battle wasn't just about winning. It was about becoming. Becoming someone who could face the storm, not without scars, but with scars that told stories of survival. He realized losing his mind wasn't the end. It was the beginning. A shedding of the old self. A breaking down before the breakthrough. At the edge of madness, he found clarity. He didn't need to be perfect. He didn't need all the answers. He only needed to keep fighting. Because sometimes the only way forward is through the chaos within. From the ashes, you rise. He had lost his mind. Not in defeat, but in transformation. The war inside had broken him down to his core. Shattered every illusion, every mask, every lie. And in that brokenness, something incredible happened. He found himself. The man beneath the pain, the fear, the doubt. The man who wasn't defined by his failures, but by his will to rise again. The battle wasn't about conquering the world. It was about conquering himself. About choosing to stand when every part of him wanted to fall. About embracing the chaos, the scars, the struggle, because they were proof of life. He looked in the mirror once more. Not with anger, not with regret, but with fierce, unshakable love. Because the only battle that truly matters is the one between you and you. And after all the storms, the fires, the falls, he was still standing. Stronger, wiser, alive, and ready to begin again.